I've got kind of an interesting thing here. You may notice that I've got some things sitting on my desk here besides my, of course, my computer.
You brought stuff to show and tell.
Some show and tell. So basically what was happening was earlier this week, for you guys that don't know with businesses and stuff like that, you have to by law keep your all your, paperwork and stuff like that for at least
Finances,
7
all that
years,
stuff, right?
Because they can go back and audit you for up to 7 years. But after 7 years, you can actually get rid of that stuff. Well, ironically enough, we just haven't for a long, long time. So we had a bunch of records and a bunch of different things all the way back to 1999. And so the other night, Lori's like, you know what, we're going to start burning. You don't want to throw that stuff away, right? Because people can find it. So we're burning out in the backyard, So, and so we came across some things that we didn't want to burn. Obviously, when it came to bills and stuff like that from 1999, we didn't we didn't need to keep that as a memory or something like that. But what happened was interesting was we found, number one, I just want to go through some of these things. I think that will be very interesting as we go here, as the night goes on. We found a bunch of receipt books, which is interesting, number one, because it's interesting to see what prices were back in 1999.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Number two, it also really showed me the difference of BHB since 1999.
Wow.
And the fact that when you go through this book, the majority of these receipts really were wholesale. There's people that were buying lots of different animals, and now we don't wholesale at all. I mean, everything is sold retail. The other thing that was pretty cool that we can go over some things I'll talk about as we go is these right here. These are actually what we used to take to shows. I mean, we literally, so this one says show name. It says Columbus. It was November of 1999. Yeah. And I'll just give you an idea. I mean, it's crazy to see this. I mean, by the way, I don't, you can't see it too good, but you can, like this is a show, and this is all the animals we sold at that show. That's was it. So I mean, the entire show, I can't imagine this is added up to over $1,200 So it's pretty crazy that we would go through all the hassle and headache, pay for tables, gas, driving, travel, all that stuff.
Hours, yeah.
Literally not sleeping the night before, because what we used to do for that show is we would literally pack the night before or the night of, leave at like 2 a.m. to get there at 6 a.m, then set up and then do the show and then drive home or drive to Chicago, because there was sometimes a show in Chicago the day after. So to do all that for that was crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But some of these things are amazing. Like, this says a snow corn, $20. You can't buy a normal corn snake wholesale for $20 anymore. Yeah. And so it's interesting how some of these animals went up exponentially, and then some animals go down exponentially. But probably most of these animals on this list went up, interestingly enough, which is interesting because, again, when you look at mutations in ball pythons or mutations in boas and even some other animals, geckos and stuff like that, they go down over time because more and more are produced.
Yeah, the corn snake one's weird, right? Because why would you go, there's way more corn snakes produced than there was in the 90s, you know what I mean? So I wonder why it dropped in price,
Yeah, it's interesting, how, went up in price, not down, But snow corn, $20. Wow. Albino Burmese python, $100. Okay, so again, they'll go for I think $250, $300-ish now, something like that. But this was in the heyday of Burmese pythons when there was just so many, $100. But there's a couple on here that are really interesting. I'm going to get to in a second here. One is albino garter snake, $45. So that's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
A pair of blotch king snakes, $70. Wow. And this is retail now. This isn't wholesale. I'm selling wholesale. This is people walking up to my table,
the booth,
buying a goinai that we now sell for $100 online. They're buying them for $35 off the table.
Wow.
Gray banded kings. This one's great because gray bands you hardly ever see anymore. And I've got a whole list of these. So we can go over these things, but I'm going to obviously, as always, answer your super chat. So if you have questions for me, hit me up in the super chat, so on like that. But gray bands, $40. Yeah, $40. $40 for a gray band.
Crazy.
This is probably the most shocking one, though.
Okay, hit me.
We produced baby D'Albert's pythons, white-lipped pythons back in the day. Obviously, we produced them in 1999. Babies, $125 is what we.
Which
this
is insane.
Sale. Right now, they're like $1,500 or something like that.
Doesn't
and you just can't even get them. I mean, it's almost impossible to find them. And here we are selling them for $125. Ball pythons, a pair for $60.
Wow.
Let's see, a normal garter snake. Get this. Now, it's a checkered garter snake, so not a normal. It's a checkered garter snake. $5.
It's like, well, why?
$5.
It's like a worm.
Yeah, we sold a pair of high whites and a pair of lavender corns for $200 for all 4, which is
Wow.
pretty cheap. Because now lavender corns would be about that price just
That's
for
what
a
I'm
pair
saying,
of those.
yeah.
Let's see, pair of boas, not too bad, $300. Kenyans, this one's pretty cheap. It's $35. Wholesale, they're like 50, 60, retail 80 or so. Let's see.
This is so
Jungle
crazy.
carpet python, $65. So, anyways, that was the Columbus, Ohio show. I thought that was interesting.
That's so wild to me.
And like I said, we can go over a couple of these tonight. There's a handful of things that go back. Like I said, we have the receipt book that I want to talk about a little bit too. And again, I'm not going to give away like who we sold stuff to, but just showing the difference in the way BHB is structured now to then. But let's hit a couple super chats. Like I said, I can monitor a little bit on my computer here. Unfortunately, our TVs are not hooked up for tonight, so I can't really see what's going on. But Jay is checking things out.
I'll be firing away at you. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, Becky Gallant. Our girl says, yay,
Becky,
it's
what's up?
podcast time.
It is podcast time, Becky. Thank you so much. I think she said it was rainy there today.
Oh,
this
yeah?
morning. I think that's what she said. I get my days mixed up. Everything blurs together.
You're not alone.
It was yesterday that it was rainy there. I don't know what's going on. Every day
Semantics, right?
Every day is the same. But welcome to the podcast.
Hell yeah. Sierra says, hey guys, I have a hypo Burmese who is almost a year old, and she's the pickiest eater of all my snakes. It seems
Interesting.
Seems to be small for her age. I have tried both live and thawed rats and mice of various sizes. Any advice?
And this was a Burmese, right?
Burm, yeah.
So, see, it's tough because it's tough to give advice because there's so many questions I have to ask you. Like you said, you've tried frozen, live, mice, rats. My question to you would be, well, what happened? I mean, it's obviously a year old, so it's eating something.
Yeah.
So my question would be like, what does it eat the best, right? So when you ask me, what do you think? I would then ask you a question saying, number one, what's the temperatures? What's the humidity? What's the cage requirements? Do you have a hide spot in there for it? How is it? Is it cage defensive? Is it tame? How much are you handling it? When you did offer a mouse, did it eat a mouse live, frozen? You know what I mean?
She should call BHB, no?
Yeah, and that could be the best thing to do, to be honest with you, because it's difficult to be a one-way
It's
thing,
a conversation.
Yeah, it's like I probably, for every question you ask, I probably have a question to ask you until we get to a point where we've narrowed down what's happening. Burmese pythons can sometimes be a little finicky. Like Marshmallow was a good example of this.
True.
When he was a baby, this was our ivory Burmese python that's at the Reptarium. When he was a baby, he struggled a little bit, and he didn't eat real regularly. But then he kind of got out of it, and now he's crushing.
Right.
I mean, now he crushes.
It's growing
too. So that might be the case too. I mean, 99% of Burms are like, garbage disposals. They'll eat anything they want. But every now and then you will get a finicky one. But again, you want to make sure your temperatures, humidities are correct. You want to make sure your caging is correct. It has everything that it wants. It's happy, not stressed out.
Don't handle it
too
much.
Yeah, and then what was the results of offering said live mouse, live rat, whatever. Sometimes, a great trick that has been used, I think Tracy Barker is the one that came up with it many years, probably 25 years ago, was actually taking a frozen, in this case, probably a small rat, I would imagine for a yearling. It might be a medium rat, I don't know, but and dipping it in chicken broth.
Oh, interesting. I never heard that.
Yeah, and sometimes that can do it because, in the wild, Burmese do eat a lot of poultry.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So like, you could also feed them chicks too, if you wanted to feed them a chick. But probably better to feed a rat that's dipped in chicken broth. So those are things that I would test. But if what I've just given you advice, if that helps, great. If it doesn't, call BHB and we'll be happy to help you out.
Melissa says, hi, Brian and Jay. How is Zeus doing? Love you guys.
Hey, Melissa, thank you for asking. I wish I had better news. We took him to our vet for a second checkup today, and she wrapped him again, so he's back in a wrap. And we have an appointment next Saturday with a specialist, and she said that the paw is definitely still very swollen, which it shouldn't be after 2 weeks, and that there could be some ligament damage. It could just be a matter of having to get the fluid out, get the fluid,
draining it,
draining it, or we may have to have surgery. So that's not good. It's not good. So he messed himself up pretty good. So I'm pretty bummed, and I just feel bad for him. He's such a great dog.
He's
so friendly and so happy, and and he wants to play, you know, and hasn't been able to really play hardly at all. We've been keeping him kind of, you know, as stationary as possible for 2 weeks. I mean, he's obviously still moving around and stuff like that, going outside, but we're not letting him run around and play. And
and he loves that.
Yeah, and it's tough, and it looks like, you know, we have at least another week before we'll know any real definitive answers. And I'm assuming the specialist will probably do like a, you know, what the doggy MRI or whatever they do to make sure there's no ligament damage. And if there is something and needs surgery, then that's the next step.
So let's fingers crossed, then hope for the best, right?
Exactly. Let's hope that.
He looked handsome as hell today, though, I will say.
Yeah. Jay came over today. We shot a HelloFresh spot. So, yeah, you know, so thank you for asking, Melissa, but keep him in your prayers, please.
Mac Lorenzo, the Mac Attack.
We were just talking about you today, Mac.
I know. I ended up messaging him. He's doing a bit better. He still has some ringing, but he's getting through it. He threw, you know, $5 just for love.
Well, thanks, Mac.
I want to shout something out for him, if that's okay, Brad.
Yeah, please.
It's pretty cool.
Please.
Let me just get it pulled up on my phone real quick. So, as Mac's going through some shit, you know what I'm saying? He's trying to keep himself motivated, and he wants to start something called Fauna Talk.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
And this is bridging the gap between animal rights and the right to care for animals. So pretty much he wants to make like a group that would allow, you know, fish people, bird people, reptile people, all to fight for all of our rights too. And I think that's beautiful. So when he does that, end up supporting him, you know?
Well, I'll definitely support you, Mac. This isn't the first time that's been tried.
Of course.
Unfortunately. You know, I will be 100% supportive of you. I will say you've got an uphill battle, you know, because for whatever reason, fish people and bird people and mammal people and reptile people don't seem to want to give a shit about each other.
Wow, that's unfortunate.
We are so much better as a community, because, you know, obviously if you join those forces together, that makes a huge lobbying group. But unfortunately, this is something that we've tried probably 4 or 5 times now.
Wow,
in the last
really?
15 to 20 years, and it's just never taken off. I mean, never, you know, and really, to be honest with you, even PJAC, the Pet Advisory Joint Council, that's what it is, right? I mean, it's for all animals. I mean, PJAC is that advisory council for all animals. But of course, they're more for the pet trade,
right.
As opposed to the pet keeper. But even that is very limited, right? Because PJAC isn't very successful. PJAC's been around for a long, long time, and it's not extremely successful, even to the point where their largest clients were that was donating the most money were Petco and PetSmart and Pet Supplies Plus, and they ended up breaking off and joining their own or building their own lobby group. So now PetSmart and Petco have. Together, they have their own lobby group, so they aren't even involved in PJAC anymore. So it's a difficult thing. So, Mac, you know, I don't want to discourage you. I want you to go forward with this, and if you can do it, and I'll back you 1,000%. It's just a weird thing. It doesn't make any sense. Now, you know, maybe what you could do, Mac, I'm just, you know, brainstorming on the fly here, is you know, try to get the proper influencers involved. And what I mean is maybe like Joey from DIY, Paul Cafaro on the fish side, you know, Rod from Predators Fish or Fins, I'm sorry. You know,
Mac Strong type people.
Well, Mac,
you know?
that's a different level. I don't think that's going to work because, you know, he's more big cats, and you definitely don't want them to be involved. You know what I mean? Because if you get, you know, reptiles, fish, small mammals, and then big cat, you're screwed. You know what I mean? Because you just aren't winning that battle, you know. So yeah, you know, I would just get influencers that, you know, like a bird influencer and so like that. And maybe then if you can join these forces together, maybe with their influence, they can help grow that. Because it's something that it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. It's like, it's so obvious.
But it's, for some reason, we've tried it, and I've been involved in the groups that have tried it, and it just hasn't worked. You know what I mean? Like the fish people just don't care about reptile people. The bird people don't care about fish people, and they just care about their part of the
so
hobby.
Short-sighted.
And it is a shame, because obviously that, you know, like when the bill HR 669 was came about, that was going to try to ban all non-native animals. Period. You know, I mean, it was like all fish, birds, dogs, cat, I mean, you name it. And that was like when we came together for the first time and fought this House bill. This is like, you know, before, now we're inundated with bills constantly. This was like the first major federal bill that was proposed. And then we did get all these factions of animal people fighting for the same rights, and it was a beautiful thing, and we crushed HR 669. As a matter of fact, the agricultural committee that hosted the HR 669 bill, said it was the most responded bill that had ever. This is the government. This is federal. This isn't state. The most responded bill they had ever had in committee ever.
Wow.
You know,
Wouldn't think that. That's crazy.
And so it just would make sense after that. You would think that we would join together, but then we didn't. We just all broke apart again. And when something comes up and it's like, oh, well, it's reptile people. I don't give a shit. You know,
It's, stupid.
It's a fish problem. That ain't my problem. You know, it's a bird problem. I don't care.
People don't
and
get
reptile
it, man.
people do it too. You know, if there's a bird legislation, how many reptile people give a shit about that?
Right.
And it's a shame because we should. You know, we're all animal people. So, Mac, work hard. I'd love for it to be successful because if it is successful, it would be a great thing for all.
Change the world,
It
yeah.
would be a great thing for all animal hobby and pet hobbies. So
We got your back.
I'm right with you, man. Just keep going, brother.
Damn, son.
Can we rail this in?